One kiss woke a 1,000-year-old alien bride, and she won't let him go asterisk the antique. Dealer's Discovery Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he sorted through another box of so-called alien artifacts in his cramped shop. Earth's black market was flooded with fake extraterrestrial items, but Jake had developed a keen eye for spotting the real deal. His small antique shop in downtown New Angeles barely made ends meet, but it was his passion for discovering genuine alien relics that kept him going. The doorbell chimed as his assistant, Zoe, entered carrying a steaming cup of coffee and a worried expression. "Jake, you've been working for 12 hours straight. The bills can wait another day." "Not when rent is due tomorrow," Jake muttered, examining a peculiar crystal statue that had arrived in yesterday's shipment. The piece was stunning, a tall, elegant figure of what appeared to be an alien woman carved from deep purple stone. Her features were impossibly beautiful, with flowing hair that seemed to move even in the solid crystal. Strange symbols were etched around the base. "Where did this come from?" Jake asked, running his fingers over the smooth surface. Zoe checked her tablet. "Some old collector from the outer colonies. Sighed it was found in a crashed ship near the Vega system. He seemed eager to get rid of it." Jake studied the inscription more carefully. The symbols looked familiar from his xenorchaeology studies, but he couldn't quite place them. The craftsmanship was extraordinary, too perfect to be human-made, yet too detailed to be machine-carved. "You know what's strange?" Jake said, circling the statue. "It's warm to the touch. Crystals shouldn't retain heat like this." "Maybe it's some kind of energy storage device," Zoe suggested. "The outer colonies are always finding weird tech." As Jake examined the statue closer, he noticed something that made his heart skip. The face wasn't just beautiful, it was expressive. The eyes seemed to follow him, and the lips were curved in the slightest smile, as if the figure was dreaming of something pleasant. "I've never seen anything like this," Jake whispered. "The detail is incredible. Look at the way the light catches. The curves of her face." Zoe raised an eyebrow. "You're talking about it like it's a real person." "Sorry, I just ... There's something about this piece. It feels different from anything else I've handled." The shop fell quiet except for the hum of the climate control system. Jake found himself drawn to the statue, unable to look away. The purple stone seemed to shimmer with an inner light, and he could swear he felt a pulse of energy radiating from it. "The inscription," Jake said suddenly. "I think it's ancient Valyrian. If I'm reading this correctly, it says something about a sleeping guardian and a key of awakening." "Sleeping guardian?" Zoe laughed. "Sounds like a fairy tale." Jake wasn't laughing. He'd studied enough alien cultures to know that many had legends about preserved beings, warriors, or leaders placed in stasis to await a time of great need. The Valyrians were one of the most ancient civilizations known to have achieved such technology before mysteriously vanishing. "Jake, you're getting that look again," Zoe warned. "The same look you had when you tried to activate that Martian puzzle box and nearly electrocuted yourself." But Jake was already leaning closer to the statue, drawn by an inexplicable urge. The face was so lifelike, so perfect. The lips looked soft despite being carved from stone, and he found himself wondering what it would be like to kiss them. "This is crazy," he muttered, but his hand was already reaching out to touch the statue's cheek. The moment his fingers made contact, the crystal warmed noticeably. The symbols around the base began to glow with a soft purple light, and Jake felt a tingling sensation run up his arm. "Jake, step back!" Zoe called out, but her voice seemed to come from far away. Looking into those carved eyes, Jake felt an overwhelming compulsion. Without thinking, he leaned forward and pressed his lips to the statue's mouth. The world exploded in brilliant purple light. The awakening of Kira Solaris. The purple light faded, leaving Jake temporarily blinded and disoriented. When his vision cleared, he found himself staring not at a crystal statue, but at the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. She stood exactly where the statue had been, 6 feet tall with luminescent purple skin that seemed to glow from within. Her hair flowed like liquid silver, and her eyes blazed with golden fire. She was also completely naked. "Zoe!" Jake called out, but his assistant had apparently fainted and lay crumpled behind the counter. The woman stretched gracefully, every movement fluid and hypnotic. When she spoke, her voice was like music, speaking perfect English with an accent. That sounded like wind chimes. "Finally," she said, fixing Jake with those incredible golden eyes. "I was beginning to think no one would ever wake me." Jake's mouth opened and closed several times before any sound came out. You're alive. You were a statue, and now you single quotes alive." She smiled, revealing perfect white teeth. "I am Kira Solaris of the Valyrian Royal House. I have been in stasis for 1,000 Earth years, waiting for my destined mate to awaken me with the bonding kiss." "Bonding kiss?" Jake's voice cracked. "I was just ... I mean, I didn't know ... By the ancient laws of my people, the one who awakens a stasis-bound Valyrian with a kiss of true intent becomes their eternal mate," Kira explained, stepping closer to Jake. "You have bound yourself to me, as I am now bound to you." Jake backed up until he hit the wall. Wait. I was just examining an antique. I didn't sign up for any eternal binding." Kira's expression softened. "I understand your confusion, Jake Morrison. Yes, I know your name. The bonding creates a psychic link between us. I can sense your thoughts, your feelings, your deepest desires." "This is impossible," Jake muttered. "People don't just wake up from 1,000-year naps. Magic isn't real." "Not magic," Kira corrected, gesturing to the air around her. Suddenly, she was clothed in form-fitting garments that seemed to be made of the same energy that had surrounded the statue. "Advanced biostasis technology. My people mastered it long before your species discovered fire." Jake watched in amazement as she created clothing from thin air. "How are you doing that?" "Molecular manipulation. A basic skill among my people." Kira moved closer, and Jake caught her scent something like exotic flowers and starlight. "But enough about technology. We need to discuss our situation." "Our situation?" Kira nodded seriously. "My awakening will not go unnoticed. There are those who have sought the Valyrian royal line for centuries. Dark forces that wish to use our power for conquest and destruction." As if summoned by her words, the shop's windows suddenly exploded inward. Black-armored figures rappelled through the openings, their faces hidden behind featureless masks. They moved with inhuman speed and precision, surrounding Jake and Kira in seconds. "Princess Kira Solaris," one of them spoke in a voice like grinding metal. "You will come with us." Kira's demeanor changed instantly from gentle to deadly. Her golden eyes blazed brighter, and energy crackled around her hands. Shadow hunters. "I should have known Valdris would send his assassins." "Who's Valdris?" Jake whispered. "My brother," Kira replied grimly. "He seized power after our parents died, ruling through fear and darkness. He placed me in stasis to prevent me from challenging his rule." The lead shadow hunter raised a weapon that hummed with dark energy. "Your mate will make an excellent hostage, princess. Surrender or watch him die." Jake felt terror freeze his blood, but Kira stepped protectively in front of him. "You will not touch my bonded mate." What happened next defied everything Jake thought he knew about physics. Kira moved like liquid lightning, her hands weaving patterns in the air that created shields of pure energy. The shadow hunter's weapons discharged harmlessly against her barriers, while she retaliated with bolts of golden fire. The battle was brief but spectacular. Within minutes, Half the attackers lay unconscious, their armor smoking. The remaining shadow hunters retreated through the broken windows, but not before their leader threw something at Jake's feet. "This is not over, Princess. Lord Valdris knows of your awakening. He will come for you both." After they vanished, Kira rushed to Jake's side. "Are you injured, my mate?" Jake stared at the destruction of his shop and at the incredible woman, who had just fought off alien assassins to protect him. "I think I need to sit down." The bond deepens 3 hours later. Jake sat in his small apartment above the shop, trying to process everything that had happened. Zoe had been taken to the hospital with a mild concussion, and his insurance definitely didn't cover Alien Princess. Attacks. Kira stood by the window, her enhanced senses scanning for threats while she explained their situation. "The bonding between us is permanent," she said, her golden eyes reflecting the city lights. "It creates a psychic link that grows stronger over time. Eventually, we will share thoughts, emotions, even physical sensations." Jake rubbed his temples. "So you're saying I'm telepathically married to an alien princess whose evil brother wants to kill us both?" "Essentially, yes." Kira turned to face him, her expression gentle. "I know this is overwhelming, Jake. I did not choose to bind you unwillingly. If I had been conscious when you found me, I would have explained everything first." "What exactly are you explaining?" Jake asked. "Because from where I'm sitting, my life just went from boring antique dealer to target of intergalactic assassination." Kira moved to sit beside him on the couch, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. "My people, the Valerians, were once the protectors of this galaxy. We used our abilities to maintain peace between worlds, to stop wars before they began. But power corrupts, and my brother Valdris sought to use our gifts for domination instead of protection." Jake found himself drawn to her voice, to the pain he could see in her golden eyes. "So you opposed him?" "I tried. But Valdris had already corrupted many of our people with promises of conquest and wealth. When I discovered his plan to enslave lesser species, I prepared to challenge him for the throne." Kira's hands clenched into fists. "He struck first, using stasis technology to imprison me while I slept. He told our people I had died in an accident. How did you end up on Earth?" "Loyal followers stole my stasis pod and fled to the outer rim of the galaxy. They must have hidden me among other artifacts, hoping someone worthy would eventually find me." Kira looked at Jake with an expression that made his heart race. Someone did. Jake felt a strange tingling in his mind, as if someone was gently touching his thoughts. "Is that you?" "In my head?" Kira nodded. "The bond allows us to sense each other's emotions, thoughts, even memories. But it requires consent from both parties to fully activate. I would never invade your privacy without permission." Despite everything, Jake found himself curious. What would happen if we ... activated it fully? We would become two halves of a greater whole. Your human ingenuity and adaptability would complement my Valerian power and knowledge. Together, we would be far stronger than either of us alone. Kira's voice dropped to a whisper. "But there is more." "More?" "The bond is not just psychic. It is also emotional, physical, spiritual. We would be mates in every sense of the word, bound together for as long as we both live." Jake felt his face burning. "That's a pretty big commitment for someone I met 3 hours ago." Kira smiled, and Jake was amazed at how the expression transformed. Her entire face from alien princess to something almost vulnerable. "In my culture, bonded mates do not need years of courtship to know they belong together. The bond itself tells us if we are compatible. And are we? Compatible, I mean." Instead of answering with words, Kira reached out and gently took his hand. The moment their skin touched, Jake gasped. He could feel her emotions like they were his own loneliness that spanned centuries. hope that burned like a star, and underneath it all, a growing affection for him that took his breath away. But more than that, he could feel his own emotions reflected back through her consciousness. His attraction to her wasn't just physical, though she was undeniably beautiful. There was something about her strength, her vulnerability, her fierce protectiveness that called to something deep inside him. "Jake," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Slightly. I can feel your heart." He realized she meant it literally. Through their joined hands, he could sense her pulse matching his, their breathing synchronizing without conscious thought. It should have been terrifying, but instead it felt like coming home. "This is crazy," he murmured, but he didn't pull away. "Perhaps, but crazy can be wonderful." Kira moved closer, her free hand reaching up to touch his cheek. "In 1,000 years of dreams, I never imagined someone like you would wake me." Jake found himself leaning into her touch. Someone like me? Kind, brave without realizing it. Someone who sees beauty in forgotten things and has the courage to reach for what calls to his heart. Her golden eyes seemed to glow brighter. Someone who would risk everything to protect what matters. Before Jake could respond, alarms began, blaring throughout the city. Through the window, they could see ships descending from the sky sleek, dark vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Kira was on her feet instantly, her manner shifting back to warrior princess. "Valdris has found us. Battle for Earth." The apartment shook as the first energy blast struck the building. Jake grabbed Kira's hand as plaster rained from the ceiling, and through their bond he felt her grim determination mixed with protective fury. "We need to get out." "Of here," Jake said, pulling her toward the door. "No." Kira's voice carried absolute authority. "Running will only endanger innocent civilians. Valdris wants me to flee so he can hunt me at his leisure." Her golden eyes blazed with inner fire. "It ends here." Through the window, Jake could see the dark ships landing in the street below. Armored figures poured out, but these weren't the shadow hunters from before. These soldiers moved with perfect synchronization, their equipment humming with deadly energy. "Those are Valdris's Void Legion," Kara explained, gesturing to create armor around herself, elegant, but clearly functional. "Elite warriors enhanced, with dark energy technology." "How many?" Jake asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. "At least 200, plus Valdris himself." Kira turned to face him, her expression fierce and beautiful. "Jake, I need you to accept the full bond. Now." "What?" "Because fighting Valdris will require every advantage we have. The bond will give you access to Valyrian combat techniques and enhance your physical abilities. But more importantly, it will allow us to fight as one." Jake looked out at the approaching army, then back at the incredible woman who had already turned his world upside down. "What do I need to do?" Instead of answering, Kira stepped close and placed both hands on his face. "Open your mind to me. Completely. Trust me with everything you are." Jake took a deep breath and let his mental barriers drop. The sensation was overwhelming. Kira's consciousness flowed into his like warm golden light, carrying with it centuries of knowledge, power, and emotion. But it wasn't one-sided. He felt his own thoughts and feelings merge with hers, creating something greater than either of them alone. When the joining was complete, Jake gasped. He could feel Kira's power flowing through his body, strengthening his muscles and sharpening his reflexes. More than that, he could access her memories of combat training, strategy, and Valyrian technology. "Now we are truly one," Kira said, her voice echoing both in the air and in his mind. The building's wall exploded inward, revealing a figure that made Jake's blood run cold. Valdris was clearly Kira's brother, the same tall, elegant features, and silver hair. But where Kira radiated warmth and light, Valdris seemed to absorb it. His skin was pale gray, his eyes black as the void between stars, and dark energy wreathed around him like living shadows. "Sister," Valdres said, his voice like poisoned honey, "you look well for someone who has been dead for 1,000 years." "Hello, brother," Kira replied, golden fire dancing around her hands. "Still trying to compensate for your inadequacies with displays of power?" Valdres's smile was sharp as a blade. "And still clinging to inferior beings for comfort. This human is not worthy to breathe the same air as Valyrian royalty." "This human is my chosen mate," Kira snarled, stepping protectively in front of Jake. "He has more honor in his smallest finger than you have in your entire corrupted body." "How touching. You always were sentimental." Valdres raised his hand, dark energy crackling between his fingers. "I will kill him slowly, so you can watch everything you care about die before I drag you back to serve the new empire." "You'll have to go through me first," Jake said, stepping up beside Kira. To his amazement, his voice was steady despite the terror coursing through him. Valdres laughed. "The pet speaks. How amusing." That was the last mistake he made. Jake might have been human, but through his bond with Kira, he could feel the insult like a physical blow. More than that, he could sense her pain at her brother's cruelty, her fear for Jake's safety, and her desperate love for the people Valdres threatened, moving with speed and grace he'd never possessed before. Jake dodged Valdres's attack and struck back with golden fire drawn from his bond with Kira. The blast caught Valdres in the shoulder, spinning him around and wiping the smug expression from his face. "Impossible," Valdres hissed. "No human can channel Valyrian energy." "This one can," Kira said proudly, fighting alongside Jake as they faced down the void, Legion pouring through the breach in the wall. What followed was the most incredible battle Jake had ever imagined. Fighting in perfect synchronization with Kira, he moved like water and struck like lightning. Through their bond, they anticipated each other's moves, covered each other's weaknesses, and combined their attacks in ways that multiplied their power exponentially. But Valdres was ancient and cunning, his dark powers fed by centuries of conquest and cruelty. Even together, Jake and Kira were being pushed back. "We can't keep this up forever," Jake panted during a brief lull in the fighting. "No," Kira replied, her face grim. "There is one way to end this, but it's dangerous. Tell me, the Royal Crown Technique. It channels the power of our entire bloodline through the bond between mates. But if we fail, the energy feedback could kill us both." Jake looked at the destruction around them, at the innocent people fleeing, in terror at the woman who had become everything to him in a matter of hours. "Do it." Kira's eyes widened with surprise and love. "Jake, you don't understand. The Royal Crown Technique will bind us permanently in ways that go beyond even our current bond. We will share one soul, one destiny, one life force. If one of us dies, the other follows within moments." "Then we better not die," Jake said, reaching for her hand. "I'm not going anywhere without you." The trust and love flowing through there. Bond was overwhelming. Kira squeezed his hand tightly and nodded. "Together then. Open yourself to me completely." Jake felt their consciousness merge on a level deeper than anything they had shared before. The sensation was beyond physical, beyond emotional. It was as if they were two streams flowing together to become a mighty river. Power unlike anything he had ever imagined flooded through him, ancient and pure and blazing with the light of stars. Around them, reality seemed to bend and shift. Golden light erupted from their joined hands, forming intricate patterns in the air that spoke of royal bloodlines and sacred oaths. The light spread outward, healing the damaged building and pushing back the shadows that clung to Valdres's forces. "No," Valdres screamed, his perfect composure finally cracking. I will not be denied by a human mongrel and my traitor sister. He threw everything he had at them, centuries of accumulated dark power, hatred distilled into pure destructive force, the screaming souls of worlds he had conquered. The attack should have annihilated them both. Instead, it broke harmlessly against their combined light like waves against an unshakable shore. "It's over, brother," Kira said sadly, her voice harmonizing with Jake's as they spoke in perfect unison. "Your darkness cannot stand against love freely given and trust freely shared." The golden light intensified, and Jake felt knowledge flowing into his mind, not just Kira's memories, but the accumulated wisdom of the entire Valyrian royal bloodline. He understood now what they had become, what their bond meant, not just for them, but for the galaxy itself. They were no longer just Kira and Jake. They were the first of a new kind of being human. Adaptability and innovation merged with Valyrian power and wisdom. Through their bond, they could sense similar potential partnerships forming across the galaxy as other species reached out to each other in friendship rather than conquest. "You represent hope," Jake said, the words coming from some deep place of understanding. The possibility that different species can unite not through dominance, but through love. Valdris made one final desperate attack, pouring the last of his strength into a blast of pure annihilation. But the power that flowed through Jake and Kira's bond was greater than destruction. It was the force of creation itself, the energy that bound stars together and gave birth to life. The dark energy struck their barrier and simply ... ceased. In its place, golden light washed over Valdris, not destroying him, but healing the corruption that had twisted his soul for centuries. The black faded from his eyes, replaced by silver like his sister's. The gray pallor left his skin, and he collapsed to his knees, truly seeing what he had become for the first time in a millennium. "Kira," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "What have I done?" Their sister knelt beside him, Jake's hand still clasped in hers. "You lost your way, as we all can, but it's not too late to find it again." Over the following weeks, Jake learned to navigate his new reality. The psychic bond with Kira grew stronger each day, allowing them to communicate without words and share emotions as easily as breathing. His antique shop was rebuilt with Valyrian technology, becoming a center for peaceful first contact between species. Valdris, freed from the darkness that had consumed him, worked tirelessly to undo the damage he had caused across the galaxy. The Void Legion became the Peace Corps, helping to establish diplomatic relations between worlds that had been enemies for centuries. "Do you ever regret it?" Kira asked one evening as they watched the sunset from their apartment balcony. "Having your quiet life turned upside down by an alien princess?" Jake pulled her closer, marveling as he always did at how perfectly she fit against him. Through their bond, he could feel her contentment mixed with lingering uncertainty about the choice he had made. "Never," he said firmly, tilting her chin up so he could look into those incredible golden eyes. "Before I met you, I was just going through the motions. Now I'm living. Even though our bond means we can never be apart, that my life is your life and your death would be mine." Jake smiled and leaned down to kiss her, the same lips that had started this incredible journey. The kiss sent warmth cascading through their shared consciousness, confirming what they both already knew in their hearts. "Especially because of that," he whispered against her lips. "I love you, Kyra Solaris, for now, for always, for whatever comes next." "And I love you, Jake Morrison," she replied, golden fire dancing in her eyes. "My mate, my heart, my home among the stars." As they kissed again, the city lights twinkling below them and alien ships arriving peacefully at the spaceport, Jake reflected on how a single moment of curiosity had changed not just his life, but the fate of the galaxy itself. Sometimes the most important discoveries came from taking a chance on something beautiful and mysterious. Sometimes love really could wake sleeping princesses and transform the universe. And sometimes a simple antique dealer from Earth could become the key to bringing peace to the stars. Their bond pulsed with shared joy and infinite possibility. As they faced the future together, two souls united as one, ready for whatever adventures awaited them among the stars.